On today's Apple Daily, Apple Silicon Macs start landing with consumers, so we have more benchmarks. Mac Mini now tops the line as you'd expect. Oh, and we also know what the graphics are like now. We'll unbox some new stuff from ESR, and Apple is testing new folding phone designs with their manufacturing partners.
For the latest Apple news, rumors, and leaks, every weekday at 12 UTC, join us in the iCave.
And if you like all that stuff that Siri's just told you about, then make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you can join our notification squad, because over 85% of the people watching this video aren't subscribed, and that makes me sad inside. So let's get straight into it. We have some new benchmarks. Today is pretty much Apple Silicon Day. There have been a few of these Apple Silicon MacBooks and Mac Minis that have turned up at people's homes yesterday, which is fabulous for them. It doesn't seem like Apple sent these out to reviewers early, which is maybe a little bit of a concern, because it turns out that when movie studios aren't particularly confident with their movies, they really hold back people on doing a review on stuff. So I really hope that it's a case of they've got something great that they want everyone to talk about at the same time the day that these get into everyone's hands. So fingers crossed that's the situation. But our MacBook Air is due to arrive today, fingers crossed, as long as there's no delays, but that is when we should be getting it. Right, let's get into some numbers. So, when we did our full breakdown video of the benchmarks that we had at the time, the Mac Mini for some reason was lagging behind the others. As I mentioned, I think it was because of just the fact that we only had one data point for that, whereas we had a lot of Geekbench scores for some of the other stuff, and that seems to have panned out. So looking at the new scores, Mac Mini late 2020 comes top of the pile with 1741 in single core, which is just astonishing, and 7643 in multi-core score. Now 1741 I think is like nearly 500 points higher than pretty much any Mac that's ever existed in terms of single core. A multi-core score, that is again probably like 200-300 points more than we had earlier on, so very, very nice. I think we were starting at about 7200, 7220, something like that when we got the first one, so much better. Why is the Mac Mini doing better than the others? Well, the reason that we're assuming is because A, it doesn't have the power constraints, so it can use those more powerful cores more often, and it's also got the fan there to cool them, and again, the fan can run a little bit faster and a little bit more often than you would want to with a laptop, because you're not trying to conserve battery power. So that is my kind of overall thoughts of why it's sitting there. Next, down the line comes the MacBook Pro. For some reason, again, the MacBook Air was at the top of the list at some point. This all seems to have settled out a little bit more to how we would have expected. So the MacBook Pro gets 1699 and 7349 in multi-core, and then the MacBook Air brings up the rear, as you would expect, but it's not really far behind at all. So 1662 in single core and 7171 in multi-core. We also found out a little bit about how Apple Silicon is going to perform when you're trying to process Intel stuff, because we have VirtualApple processor that's also cropping up on the benchmarks. This is from a MacBook Air, and it was actually running at 2.6 gigahertz as opposed to the 3.2 that we'd normally be looking at. It still gets a 1313 single core and a 5888 on multi-core score. That means that the single core on that still beats every Intel MacBook that we've ever had in terms of running Intel code, which is just stupid. It's just, this is going to be so good, and bear in mind that these are also the lowest power SoCs of Apple Silicon that we're ever going to have. These are not going to be the top of the line. These are replacing only the entry-level models. So although in the benchmarks these things do, I mean, the Mac Mini and the MacBook Pro, in fact all three do just blow away the top of the line 16-inch MacBook Pro in terms of the compute scores. We are going to get to the graphics stuff in a couple of seconds, but on that, it's faster than any portable MacBook ever. So just let that settle in when it is also the lowest powered one. Now, there are limitations. It does only have the two USB Thunderbolt 3 ports. It can only support one external display for the MacBooks that are also using their internal displays. So there are some limitations. But I think for the vast majority of users that would be buying a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, so certainly the low-end 13-inch, they're not going to be connecting it to an array of monitors. The Mac Mini, a little bit of a different case, but I'm pretty certain that we will be seeing a higher spec version of the Mac Mini down the line, probably in that space grey that they've probably reserved for the more pro version. So we also have a Cinebench score. Now this is a little bit more of a longer running benchmark that takes a bit longer, so it potentially has got the chance to get stuff to spin up. So in terms of Cinebench, this is on the MacBook Pro M1 model. This is a 1498 and a 7580. That puts it quite happily in the territory of the mid-range 16-inch MacBook Pro. Not too bad at all. So that's when the thermals are probably starting to kick in a little bit more. And then getting into graphics. And graphics is something that we know it's integrated graphics model. It's not going to be like a full-on standalone card, but it's doing pretty well. So Tom's Hardware is where the source of this comes from, and these numbers come from GFX Bench, which I believe is more based around mobile stuff. However, that's what they've used to test it, and the M1 outperformed a GTX 1050 Ti and an RX 560, both on frame rates at 1440p, and it was close to beating the GTX 1650 as well, which, as I say, I'm not a PC guy. These are reasonably powerful graphics processors. So I had a quick look up, and the 1050 Ti at the moment as a standalone card goes for about £140–150 on Amazon, but that's a huge honking thing that's like massive. It's not an integrated system, and that just gives you an idea of what Apple has managed to pack into this system on a chip. I got in touch with ESR, who sent us some cases previously for the iPad Air when that was being released. They got in touch with me at that point. I said, thanks very much, and I've got an iPhone 12 Pro Max on the way, and I've already bought one of your cases for it, and they sent me some accessories. So on each of this week's videos, I'm going to be unboxing one of these, and I don't actually know what's in each, so we are going to start with this one in the middle. So this is the ESR iPhone 6.7-inch silicon case, black, new. That's all it says. So let's get in. Don't have a knife. We're not allowed them in the UK. Okay, so not a lot in there, but this is an actual black case rather than a black and clear, which is what I'd got already. A little bit of ASMR for you guys. Ooh, that's quite nice. So this has got a nice, I don't know if this is going to focus super well, but you've got a nice kind of fleece inner for this, which is going to nicely protect the inside of your iPhone. That's going to protect the back quite nicely, and then it's a very soft silicone rubber around the outside, but it's actually reinforced, so it's very soft at the bottom here and reinforced on the corners, so that's quite nice. I can't show you putting it onto the phone because that is what we are filming this show on, but thank you to ESR, who are essentially the unofficial sponsors of this week's Apple News, by sending me this stuff over. Now, what I'm probably going to do is we might do a bit of a giveaway at the end of the week. So if you want to win any of these cases, if you've got a 12 Pro Max, or I think there's also some Qi chargers and some cables and stuff here as well. So if you want to win any of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel and you rung the notification bell, because only people in my notification squad will have a chance of winning. So make sure you've done all that stuff. Final story of the day, Apple is testing folding phones at one of their suppliers, Foxconn, over in China. Now, I've got to say, I am not excited at the prospect of a folding phone. I genuinely don't know what kind of problem it's supposed to be solving for me. It doesn't appear to make anything better. When you look at the Galaxy Fold, which is pretty much the folding phone right now that anyone gives a crap about, it's kind of a worse iPad because it's got a plastic screen on the inside and it doesn't really sit quite flat, and it's not quite as big, and it's got a weird aspect ratio, and then you fold it in half. You've got a less good mobile phone with a really skinny screen on the front. You've got kind of a weird array of cameras where some of them point at you and you're rearranging them all the time, and it just doesn't seem like a particularly compelling option to me. So am I excited about an Apple foldable phone? Not particularly. However, skepticism aside, if anyone can make a folding phone work and make me geek out about it, it's going to be Apple. So apparently they're currently in the process of testing whether they should go with OLED or with MicroLED displays, which one will work better for a folding display. And the testing is apparently going to involve folding the thing over 100,000 times. Now, with the Samsung Galaxy Fold, the original, it was just a comedy of errors where 50% of the phones that they sent out to reviewers were broken within 24 hours because people were trying to peel off what looked like a screen protector, but it was actually the screen, and you could get sand into it and bits of grit under the display and things like that just absolutely annihilated the display really quite quickly. So hopefully Apple will make something a little bit more durable than that. Let's get some ceramic shield onto it, and maybe it's going to be an acceptable product for humans. Right, next up we have got our notification squad. We've got new members, and thank you all for joining. As I said earlier, if you want to join the notification squad, like this video, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so that you get notified every time we put out a new video, and make sure you let me know in the comments that you've done it by either putting the hashtag notification squad or by just telling me generally. I will read the comments. I'm not just filtering it all by hashtags right now. Our new members are Thomas Gunnasilan Selvam, Flip Jensen, Mazur Nashir, and Martin A. Moore. Those are our new members of the notification squad. Thank you all so much for joining. And as I've mentioned, 85% of the people watching this channel aren't subscribed, so don't be one of those people. Subscribe to the channel. If you want me to answer any of your questions about anything Apple related, leave it down in the comments with the hashtag iCaveAnswers and I will get to them. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.